moving on and talking about how PLM, how digital manages the physical, okay? And here we're talking about Windchill, all right? So Windchill is a big product. It's a family of products, okay? It covers a whole range of capabilities, okay? So things like managing our documents, managing our CAD data, model-based definition that I just talked about before, built-in visualization, so publishing of that. We've got things more like on managing of change, configuration management, BOM management, okay? So a lot of really that sort of core management of all your data. And so as I mentioned before, you know, PTC likes to say how Windchill is really the backbone of the digital thread, right? How do you have traceability of all of this digital information if you're not managing and controlling that, okay? So there's a whole bunch of sort of core product development tools inside there. Wrapped around all of that is search and analytics and reporting. But then there's also a bunch of sort of more role and industry specific options as well for Windchill. And you know, I guess in the medical device space, there are tools there around regulatory compliance, around quality management, risk and reliability management, as well as some very specific sort of medical device configured templates available for customers as well, okay? So one of the things that we really sort of like to focus on and what we see in a lot of organizations, not just med dev, but a lot of other industries as well, is a lot of companies tend to run off these very sort of document-centric approaches with siloed systems, right? So we've got the engineers up the top here doing all their engineering stuff with their engineering tools. You know, maybe they're using Windchill, maybe they're using something else, or they're managing files on disk, but they've got their own little systems, right? And then you've got a separate regulatory group that's dealing with all the submissions and everything else that they need to do. So obviously when they're trying to collect information together for an audit, getting together that information, that can be a really big time-consuming project as they're jumping around between lots and lots of different systems trying to gather everything together. Okay, and then we've got our quality and manufacturing and service people. Again, they're dealing with customer issues, audits, non-conformances, customer complaints, you know, maybe leading to corrective action, preventative action tools. So again, often done in a separate system, completely disconnected from the engineering tools, which then means there's that whole tracing, right? Trying to trace the quality issue to the specific version that we're using from the engineering perspective. You know, we get this disconnected approach that leads to lots of manual work that is obviously error prone, okay? So the idea we like to talk about is this closed loop quality approach, right? So we are building this inside that one system, pardon me, where we've got a common view, right? Everyone can see the products, they can see the quality information all linked together. So I can go and look at a particular item, I can see all the quality reports on that, all of the history of that, all the manufacturing information of that. So it makes life much easier in terms of, you know, putting together all the regulatory information, audits, preparation, all that kind of stuff, okay? So as I mentioned, PTC's got a lot of tools around this inside the Windchill family around supporting things like FDA Part 820 and ISO 13485. Okay, so there's a bunch of MedDev pre-configured tools for that. So stuff around design control, training tracking for documents. On the more quality side of things like customer experience management, CAPAs and SCARs, you know, managing risk, non-conformance and audits. There are also tools in there around things like unique device identification, which I know we've got some of our customers starting to work with that as well. Okay, so a whole bunch of tools in there. And moving beyond that, there's other things around things like you know, UDI submissions, how we handle all of that regulatory side of things as well. Okay. So this tends to be wrapped up really more around the sort of Windchill quality side of things. And it covers a range of different areas, right? So some of it is core Windchill functionality, things like, you know, CAD management, BOM management, right? But then document management, but then we can get into things more like you know, enabling things like e-signatures inside watermarking of stuff, training tracking. We can get into more requirements, things like that, and our sort of CAPAs, our sort of quality, more traditional quality side of things. So again, a lot of different options there in terms of what Windchill can do for that. Okay. So I guess to talk about some of those in a little bit more detail, okay, so I guess kind of the core of Windchill, for a lot of people is really getting into the managing of the BOM. I know we do have some customers that use Windchill purely as sort of more of a PDM system as product data management, so really just managing CAD data and documents. But if we move more into using Windchill as a PLM tool, the idea then is that we can start to build up and manage our product BOMs. So the idea is we can build up a BOM that contains all of our product information, and then attached to that BOM is all of the CAD data, documentation, whatever else it might be, visualization that helps to describe that part. Okay. So that can be a multi-CAD environment, right? We can have all of that CAD data together from multiple systems if you're working with that, but we can start to build up that BOM, right? What that then lets us do is start to, see all that information. As I said before, we can start to tie things like from Codebeamer into Windchill. So we've got this particular BOM item. We can say, well, here's a requirement in Codebeamer that is directly affecting the development of this item in the BOM. Okay, so we can start to build that up multiple ways. Once we've got that, we can then start to use that for some of our design control tools, things like generating the DHF and the DMR and those sorts of things. Okay. And evolve that bill of materials over time. So then we've got our sort of history and everything else we need from a traceability perspective. So on that front, as I mentioned before, so things like the DHF, right? So as we start to build up this complete BOM, Windchill can be set up to automatically generate the DHF. Okay, so essentially everything that's related in the structure, all of the parts, all of the CAD documents, documentation, change information, all that kind of information that's important for our design history file, Windchill will automatically add that into the DHF on a nightly schedule. Out of the box, it runs at 1 AM, but of course that can be updated and run manually at any point in time. And then when we're looking at DHF at any point in time, we can go and export that out to a PDF file to provide that to someone who's asking, okay, with a list of all of our objects, what type it is, its current version, current state, all with a couple of clicks. Okay. Similarly, if we're looking at our design master record, same sort of thing. We can go through our DHF records if we want to and say, yep, let's add that to the DMR. Okay. So then we can build up that list of the DMR that we maintain over time. And again, at any point in time, we can generate out a PDF of that DMR. Okay. All right, document control is another big one we see, again, particularly in the medical device industry, right? Is documentation and the maintenance of that is critical. Okay, the ability to track that. So again, there is a document control module that's available with Windchill, MedDev flavored version of that, which comes with a specific set of predefined document templates and workflows to meet those requirements. So you can see them listed here, things like control documents, records, approved records. Okay, so we can create documents of these particular types. They have their associated workflows that they run with them. So it's really the ability to, as adopt these best practices for your standard sort of med tech document types. Okay. So included in that with our control documents is also the ability to do training tracking, right? So the ability to automatically set that up, define users who must do their training, get notifications if their training is about to expire, trace the completion of that all through workflows built inside Windchill as well. Okay. So really the idea is we set up our environment, we manage all of that data, okay? Ideally it stays the same, but really what happens is things change over time, right? And this is obviously where a lot of the work goes into things. So again, which comes with a closed loop change management tool, right? So the ability to configure and define a change process, okay? And use that to manage your change inside the Windchill environment. Okay, so at a high level, there's a bunch of out-of-the-box change objects that come with Windchill. So we can create problem reports to capture an issue, some sort of design issue, cost issue, safety issue, whatever it might be. We also could create deviations or waivers if we're looking at change for a product or a process as a temporary thing. From that, we kick off a workflow that could then lead into a change request, where we're asking, requesting the change. That might be a simple change that engineering is going to handle. Maybe it's going to big change that's going to involve a change review board across multiple departments to decide on what we're going to do here. Okay. Once we've defined all of that, then we can go in and actually create and execute a change notice where we actually make the changes to this. So we create an implementation plan. We define all of the tasks that are to be done as part of that implementation plan. So we might have someone in engineering needs to update the CAD models and the drawings for them, or we've got someone else who might need to run an analysis on that, maybe update some tooling. We might have some documentation that needs to be updated, all that kind of thing. So farm all that out through Windchill, manage that through workflows and tasks with people to check and just review that information, and basically close all of that out once it's been done. Okay, so that's a built-in change process that's there inside Windchill that we've got many of our customers are using that in some form or another. Okay. I guess some of these are more medical device specific, right? There's an audit management process, so the ability to run internal or external audits based off current standard either ISO 9001 or 13485 processes. Okay, so the idea is we can schedule, run, execute our audits, capture all of that criteria, and then use that to generate reports, and that might then lead on to, hopefully not, but there might be non-conformances or whatever else it might be, so we can use that to help define and grade our suppliers or whatever it might be. Okay. The other part with our products out there in the field is complaint management, right? The feedback from the field, from the customers, right? So that might come through our support tools. So again, there are pre-configured 13485 customer feedback processes integrated with BOM and failure modes, effect analysis codes, so we can record all of that. But again, the beauty of this is we can tie that back to the actual items in Windchill and then use that to follow that up. That might be an escalation into a kappa, whatever it might be, okay? Similarly, we've got non-conformances. So we might have done an audit. We might find there's a non-conformance coming out of that. Okay. So again, we can define all of that information to capture non-conformances and maybe escalate that into a kappa. Okay. So on the kappa side of things, again, the idea of this is we integrate this into change control. Okay. So we have a bunch of tools in there for defining our kappas with predefined workflows for all of that. We can choose all of our affected items. It can be linked back to our earlier information, our complaints, our audits, whatever that might be. We can go through and run our root cause analysis. We can run multiple kappas if we need to, or multiple threads within a kappa if it's a big complex one. And again, there's a whole bunch of, with all of these tools, a whole bunch of predefined reporting to let your quality managers or whoever know, like, this is the current state of all our kappas, where they're at, what the causes are, all that kind of stuff is there inside Windchill as well. Okay. So really the idea of this is to give us this sort of quality-driven closed-loop change. Okay, so we talked about the change process just before, but the idea is all of this quality information can feed into and drive our change process. So we might run an audit. Okay, from that audit, we might find that there are some non-conformances that have been happening. Okay, so we might need to deal with that. We might have some complaints that are coming in, either from field service or the call center, whatever it might be. Okay, so then they can then drive into, maybe we define a kappa. We run that through, we define what's happening, and then from that kappa, we realize that we need to make some engineering changes, so that kappa can drive directly into a change notice that then follows our standard change procedure. Okay. So all combined together. So as I said, the beauty of this is now being in Windchill is that we can then go and look at all of this and see, here's our item, here's a non-conformance that came or a customer complaint. We can trace that through to a kappa or change notice. So if we've got to do an audit, we've got to report on all of that. It's much easier when it's all inside the one system and all traceable. Okay. As I mentioned before, right, with all of this stuff, a big thing is, understanding what's going on inside the system, right? So a bunch of reporting that's available there inside Windchill out of the box that comes with this. So we can look at, things like, what's our customer experience, our kappas, see all of that information as well. So we can start to investigate that over time, okay? The last one I wanted to mention, UDI. Okay, so there is a UDI module also available for Windchill to handle with your unique device identification. Okay, so handling all of that traceability with your submissions. So it's pre-configured data and processes in there, so it supports the EU MDR UDI requirements for that. Okay. An example of a company doing this sort of stuff, Johnson & Johnson, they were there on the earlier slide with showing PC customers. So so basically they've done a lot of work. They've got Windchill for managing all of this information. They've actually consolidated from a whole bunch of different systems they had through acquisitions and other things like that into a Windchill system. They're doing a lot of work with ThingWorx Navigate, which I'll talk about a little bit, for making that all of that information visible to the wider enterprise. So not just the people creating that data all the time. 3D models in there as well, so a whole bunch of capabilities there for handling that global change and managing all of that information and giving them that digital thread. Okay. Again, you know, if you want to know more on this, we did run a series of webinars just recently. Again, go to our design digital transformation, blog. A whole bunch of things there, a whole series that we ran on Windchill PLM and things that you can do inside there. Okay. But really, to sort of summarize the idea of that digital thread for this, you know, the idea is we've got this sort of ALM, PLM digital thread, right? We've got Codebeamer where we can start to manage, you know, requirements and risks and define all that information. Then inside Windchill, we can start to manage, you know, our digital product with all that information. Our design and documentation goes in there. We're defining that BOM, but then we can start to look at using Windchill quality for handling some of this, you know, regulatory stuff, non-conformance audit, customer experience reporting, CAPAs and SCARs, leading back to the core of Windchill PLM change as well. Okay, so keeping that all linked together.